Police brutality has been on the rise for the past 10 years. In the past 2 years, there has been a heavy stream of incidents. Some people claim that police brutality hasn't gotten worse. It's only because of the news and social media that we hear so much about it. While it is true that social media has done a wonderful job of spreading awareness about the issue, it is not the reason that we hear so much about police brutality. We hear so much about police brutality because it happens so frequently. In an article written by journalist Sean King in 2018, King says, according to Killed by Police, a website that has painstakingly tracked police killings since 2013, there has been more police killings thus far this year than in the same time span in any of the last 5 years. A policy that people have been considering to help with this issue is the decentralization of police. The problem is police brutality and the police holding too much power. Police brutality is described as the excessive and unwarranted use of force by law enforcement. In most cases, police brutality affects people of color the most. According to Statista.com, 235 black people were shot to death by police officers in 2019. 241 were shot to death in 2020, and in only the first 3 months of 2021, 30 black people have been shot to death by police. This doesn't even count for other types of murder by police, such as in George Floyd's case, being strangled to death. The cause of police brutality is thought to be the lack of training or just blatant racism. According to Study.com, the 4 major responsibilities of police officers are enforcing laws, preventing crimes, responding to emergencies, and providing support services. Although it is only 4 responsibilities, they each have different subsections. This brings up the question, do police officers receive enough training to be qualified for all these responsibilities? According to IN.gov, police officers receive 600 hours of training. So I did some math. So if a police officer were to complete their training during normal work hours, so Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., then that would mean that police officers receive about 3.5 months of training. That's it, 3.5 months to be responsible for individuals and community safety. And for people who think training isn't the issue with police brutality, then what is it? An accident? A coincidence? No, it is fueled by racism. Recently, we have been seeing a lot of police brutality caused by racism. One way this can happen is by profiling. Profiling is when an officer analyzes an individual's physical and behavioral characteristics in order to put them into a particular subgroup of people. While police officers have the right to profile, they often abuse this power and use it against people of color. People of color are often the people who end up suffering from police brutality. In December of 2020, an Asian American man who was 19 years old named Christian Hall was standing on a bridge contemplating suicide. Bystanders had pulled over and called the police, scared for Christian Hall's life. Christian Hall was holding a realistic pellet gun that looked like a pistol or some sort of gun. Police officers got to the scene, and instead of helping Christian Hall through his mental health crisis, they shot him in the chest and murdered him. The police claimed that his pellet gun that he was holding was pointed at them and they were fighting for their lives. But luckily, due to bypassers who had pulled over and had taken videos, the videos proved that Christian Hall had dropped his gun and had both of his hands up when he was murdered. Another story is of Breonna Taylor. In March 2020, Breonna and her boyfriend were peacefully sitting in their apartment. They heard banging on the door and repeatedly asked, "Who is it? Who is it?" When the police barged in, Kenneth Walker, Brianna's boyfriend, thought this to be Brianna's abusive ex-boyfriend and shot so he could be safe in his own home. When police saw that a weapon had been fired, they aimlessly fired into the apartment and shot Brianna 5 times. It killed Breonna Taylor, and she spent the last 5 minutes of her life struggling for air. There are countless other stories of people who have been affected by police brutality. A solution to police brutality is to decentralize the police. The definition of decentralization is the transfer of control of an activity or organization to several local offices or authorities, rather than one single one. We could do this by creating many specialized groups for special circumstances. Instead of police handling many different and complex situations, there would be a well-trained team to handle it. There could be a mental health crisis team, a traffic patrol team, major and minor crime teams, etc. By decentralizing the police, it creates specialized groups who would receive in-depth training for their specific responsibility. This would hopefully lead to less police brutality by limiting the number of responsibilities and power that the police force hold. Police brutality has plagued our country, and it's time for something to change. Decentralization would be a step in the right direction.